Red words are not phonetic. They don't follow the rules of phonics and therefore can't be sounded out. They simply don't make any sense. Red means stop, so stop yourself from trying to sound them out and do your best to remember. For example, the number 1 starts with the sound of a W, w, and yet it starts with an O. If it were spelled phonetically, it would be W-U-N. The challenge of red words is not just to read them correctly, but to write them correctly too. This usually is much more difficult and takes plenty of repetition. Follow this protocol for the best results. Introduce only a few words at a time and start with the handwritten flashcards. Show the word and pronounce it. Have your child repeat the word after you. On the second time through, don't say the words yourself, just have your child read them. If your child reads a word incorrectly, put it back in your little pile to do it again. Then move on to spelling. Use the handwriting paper and write the red words onto today's green words. Dictate the word. If it's spelled correctly, move on to the next one. If it's not spelled correctly, have your student cross it off. Have her write the word while she says the letters out loud. Be sure she doesn't try to sound it out, just say the letters. In this case, she would say, O-N-E spells one, each time she writes it 3 times. When you get to the 3 theirs, be sure to identify it's the one that shows ownership, like their house, their car, or the one that's a spot away from you, or a contraction. Be sure you've reviewed contractions before you get to this one so that you can ask your child what 2 words it stands for. If your reader mixes up the first 2, give this prompt. The word there that's a place is the opposite of here. Point to a spot away and a spot close by to clarify there and here. The words here and there are actually in the same word. On your next lesson, keep track of the words that will need to be repeated next time in the spot for future words. In the sample lesson, the words one and once were introduced. The red word the is from a previous lesson. The child has been doing well with it, both in reading and spelling, so it can be dropped. The words one and once were just introduced and were a challenge for the child. These words should be reviewed until they have been spelled correctly 5 times. So for the next lesson, review one and once and just add 1 more red word, only. So the steps for red words are very logical. For the visual exercises, introduce only a few words at a time. Start with the handwritten flashcards. Show the word and pronounce it. Have your child repeat it after you. On the second time through, don't say the words yourself, just have your child read them. If your child reads a word incorrectly, put it back in your little pile. For the auditory exercise, dictate the word. If your child spelled it correctly, move on to the next one. If it's not spelled correctly, have your student spell the word 3 times. Be sure he says the letters as he writes, not the sounds. Red words cannot be sounded out. Use this red word protocol and it won't be long before your child is making amazing progress.